I'm Tom Baker, this is Chasing Cars, and today we're here at Wakefield Park Raceway outside Sydney to drive this, the facelifted Hyundai i30N, but with a difference because this one has the 8-speed dual clutch automatic transmission that we've been waiting a couple of years for, because until this point the i30N has been 6-speed manual only. Now that's not a problem for me, but the majority of the volume out there in hot hatches is now for automatic transmission, so Hyundai have really needed to get this gearbox on board. But that's not the only change for the facelifted i30N. There is a new look, we've already seen it. This car's under camouflage for a couple of reasons, but I'll splice in some footage of the facelift N here. But there's also a number of other tasty changes. There's now forged alloy wheels, which sees unsprung mass reduced by about 14 kilos in total, which is significant. And there are bigger brakes at the front end, plus a host of technology changes, some designed to make it even more fun to drive, some new safety technologies, and also more comprehensive tech in the cabin. So today, we're going to start by going out on track and seeing how the i30N DCT compares to the manual. Is this thing still good to drive? Then we'll check out the interior and talk about what the facelift of this car is going to be like. But before we get started, hit subscribe down below and the notification bell. All right, so it's here, the i30N DCT. It's been a bit of a wait, no doubt a nervous wait for Hyundai because, you know, love it or hate it, this is really where the meat of the kind of 40 grand hot hatch segment is now. Most people want an auto. Hyundai have been without one in the i30N for at least a couple of years now, and even though the manual has actually sold pretty well, they've sold about 1,000 a year since launch in manual, no doubt the DCT will be a worthy addition in terms of volume. But is it a worthy addition in terms of driving dynamics? Let's find out. So I've actually brought both the manual and the DCT to Wakefield so that we can compare them back to back, which I think is the best way to do this. Because we know that the manual is a really sparkling hot hatch, really enjoyable car to drive, and particularly good on track, especially after the little update to the i30N, which saw it get a slightly more compliant front end, became a little bit more playful to drive on road and track. Well, what's the DCT like? Well, first impressions are that this is a pretty good gearbox. It's also a gearbox with some funny features that you don't usually see, and I'll get to those in a second. First of all, the basics. What are we dealing with here? 8-speed DCT. We'll actually see it on the road before the facelift i30N arrives in the form of the Sonata N line, which also has this gearbox. But this is a proper N tune of the DCT. And it's really snappy if you want it to be, but it's also remarkably relaxed if you're just driving in normal mode. And it's actually so good it almost feels like a torque converter off the line, which I know is what a lot of people don't like about Volkswagen's DSG. Now VW have really improved their DSGs over the last couple of decades, but it still has a few quirks at low speed. Hyundai have really worked to get rid of those on this gearbox. This isn't their first DCT. They do have a 7-speed unit on some of their kind of normal range. This is a totally new gearbox. You know, it's taken a very long time to develop, but thankfully it seems like it's been worth the wait. So I'm driving it manually through the paddles right now, and it's really entertaining. The paddles themselves are coated plastic. You know, in an ideal world, they would have been metal and that would have been really cool, but they still feel all right. They're quite long, and you can probably hear that they offer up very snappy shifts. So the logic of the DCT is good. Now, interestingly, the shifts give you a bit of a kick. If you're at full throttle and you're shifting up high in the rev range, it really chucks you into the back of the seat as it shifts. Not everybody's going to love that. To me, that doesn't feel like a good shift to me. But what it does is it introduces a bit of theatre for the DCT that would otherwise be missing. So some people will love it, but you can turn it off. And as for just as with the manual, N custom mode lets you really customize all of the settings on this car. You know, we continue to have stuff like the adjustable throttle response, diff effort, exhaust sound, steering weight, and adaptive dampers. But we also can adjust the ferocity of the automatic shift, which is pretty cool. There's also a feature called N Grin Shift that will give you an extra boost and really hard shifts for a limited amount of time. Theoretically, if you want to pass someone on the track or whatever. But I prefer to kind of leave it in a semi-relaxed setup or just take full control with the paddles, which is really rewarding to drive. Now the DCT is a little bit heavier than the manual, and you do feel that on track. Turn in is just a pinch delayed compared to the manual. What's important is that this is all of the stuff we like about the i30N distilled into a package with a gearbox that's going to appeal to the masses. And the manual isn't going away, and that's good because it's still more fun, still more rewarding to drive, and with, you know, the rev match feature that comes on the manual, it's not hard to drive. If it was the first manual you own, it would actually make it really easy. But naturally, the auto is going to be a fit for anybody that doesn't want to shift their own gears. Volkswagen have dropped the manual from the GTI, and even Ford, who have brought the manual on the Focus ST, estimating only 30% of the sales on that car will be manual after the first year. So you can see why Hyundai have felt the need to do this, and I'm glad they've done a good job of it. All right, so we've pitted now so that we can have a look at the interior of the facelift i30N with the DCT. Now, this is a development car that's been out here in Australia to tune everything for our roads, which is something that Hyundai Australia have done for many years now. So there are a couple of little bits and bobs missing, but most of it is here. It mainly starts with this 10.25-inch touchscreen, which replaces a small 8-inch unit in the previous car. It's also higher resolution, so we can do 3 panels, as you can see. Now, this is left-hand drive, as we may have noticed. The sat-nav thinks we're halfway between Stuttgart and Cologne, so that's a good sign. That's where a lot of this car's development has also occurred, but the screen itself is good. We'll also be moving to wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is certainly an improvement. In front of us, we continue to have analog gauges, but they look really good. They're like a watch face. I really like them. There's no fully digital display available, unlike on a Golf GTI, but it's really a matter of taste, and I still like a good looking set of analog dials. The shifter is clearly different from the manual. It's quite a good looking thing. Obviously not ever going to be as tactile as that nice ball shifter that you get in the stick, but it's not too bad. Matched to paddle shifters, but much of the rest of the interior remains the same. The dashboard isn't that different. In fact, it's the same in terms of construction. There will be new seats. I'll pop some B-roll over now because the car has been revealed in production form in Europe, though not all the changes have carried across to this prototype. The i30N's interior was always, basic but serviceable, and now with the additional technology, it does take a step or two up in my estimation. So those are my first impressions of the updated Hyundai i30N, now with the DCT Automatic. I'm really pleased that Hyundai have actually taken the time to get this gearbox right. Now, I've only driven it on track, not yet on road, so I can't tell you exactly how it goes in day-to-day traffic, but my first impressions, even from just crawling around here in the pits at low speed, is that this DCT feels really well tuned and well suited to track work as well. The other little improvements to the i30N are very much appreciated, and I look forward to telling you more about them when I'm able to take this car out onto our roads and really see how it stacks up against its other hot hatch rivals. Now, leave me a comment down below. Does the auto improve the i30N for you? Is it now on your shopping list? While you're down there, make sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell. And as always, thanks for watching Chasing Cars.